So this is Harrison versus Lewis. And both sides will have 15 minutes to present their arguments, and the appellant may reserve up to 5 minutes.
My name is Terrence Scanlon. I represent Marletta Lewis, mother of the boys. I always have a hard time with oral argument because I've said pretty much what I have to say in brief, and I'm really interested in any questions you might have. And I just want to say that overall, this is, to me, this result is kind of bizarre. That may be too strong a word, but basically, there are two boys involved here. They're roughly 2 to 3 years apart in age. And the younger son has been taken away from his mother because allegedly the mother can't handle the older son. So I don't quite understand that.
The older son was the larger and perhaps dangerous?
That's sort of what was said. In fact, I believe William is now taller than James, but James may be the more aggressive of the two.
I get the two names. And
James is the older
Okay.
boy. And, but his condition basically was known when the first decree was entered in 2010. And mother got both of the boys at that time. It is true, he's bigger than he was then, but that's not something unexpected. As children grow, age, they also tend to grow. The boys do want to be together. The mother feels that she's perfectly able to handle them, and really would like to have them back together with her. I do believe that there was not a sufficient showing of change of circumstances, but I'm still left with the abiding conviction that this result, I mean, if anything, you take the older boy away and give it to dad, give him to dad, but mom doesn't want that. She wants them both with her. So, if you have any questions?
Well, I think the court found, did it not, that the violence had just continued to escalate. So why would that be a change of circumstances?
You mean between the boys? Okay. There's only two.
Or violence in the home, period.
Okay.
I think it could be either or
Yeah,
both.
the mother was pushed one time, but Jane's the older boy. And on another time, William showed signs of scratches or whatever, where the boys had been fighting around the neck, kind of like grabbing. And the other time was the incident in the home where they were setting up the internet and James became angry because it wasn't going to be set up at the time he wanted. This was actually at his grandparents' home. And when he stormed out of the house, he pushed William, and I think William fell. Those are the things that I don't really know that violence is even the proper word, outbursts of anger. And in fact, I had a couple of boys myself, they do tend to fight if they're, depending on their proximity and the age between the two. So. Anything else?
I guess not.
I'd like to reserve the rest of my time.
You can reserve the 5.
Okay.
I'll say 5 for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May it please the court, my name is Leslie Gransky, and I'm here on behalf of Gregory Harrison, the father in this matter. The first assignment of error deals with the change in circumstances issue that is to be reviewed for an abuse of discretion. I believe that the evidence shows that there is competent, credible evidence in the record to support the trial court's finding. this court had recognized in Goad versus Goad that mental health issues which exacerbate can form the basis of a change in circumstances. It's clear from the record that James's issues has escalated as he grew older. There had never been a safety plan, also known as a crisis management plan, at the time of the prior allocation of parental rights. Pursuant to the crisis management plan, mother was to remove knives and inflammable items from the home and to call the police if he was destructive. When the altercation that formed the emergency removal of William occurred, mother didn't call the police, and she did call father. That was no part of the crisis plan, by the way. Mother didn't comply with the crisis management plan that she signed in October of 2013. That's another change in a circumstance. James's ongoing behavioral problems has escalated to the extent that he was bounced from different schools because of his behavior. He was suicidal. He was hospitalized for mental health issues. The high conflict in mother's home led to the maternal uncle, Bishop Marletta, having a broken arm. He had domestic violence incidents with his mother, including the pushing. He caused marks on William's neck. These are all things that had not occurred prior to the previous allocation of parental rights. It constitutes the basis for a change of circumstances. The guardian ad litem then investigated, and he opined in his recommendation that having William in father's care was in the best interest for both children. Mother can present a sincere argument that the evidence could support her position, but that's not the standard.
Was the motion made by father for William to come to him, or was the motion made by father for both children to come?
It was for William to come to him. There was real reason to separate the boys.
Well, I guess my question is, why wouldn't they switch the other way when James was the bigger, stronger one? I presume if father's bigger, stronger than mother, it would seem to me. I mean,
You know what, I
Trying to
was not
protect
trial
them.
counsel, so
yeah, I mean, that's,
Yeah.
just.
But mother has had,
Go ahead, I apologize, go ahead.
I believe from my reading of the guardian ad litem report in the record, that mother was better able to control James once it was only James.
Okay.
So just separating the boys improved the situation, actually for both boys. I don't believe the record shows James having as many problems once the boys were separated. The second assignment of error.
I was gonna say though, what was father's relationship? You didn't have much of a relationship, right?
And I think he had more of a relationship than mother presents. The difficulties between the parents was causing less interplay than there might have been, but William was thriving in Dad's home.
But evidently he had less of a relationship with James than he did William.
Yeah, I believe that is also accurate. Mother has claimed that it was error for the court to fail to include the previous guardian's report. And when this court is reviewing that, the issue is whether that refusal interfered with substantial justice and whether that was actually prejudicial error. Frankly, it would have been my preference to have that report in the record because I do not believe it impacts the changes in circumstances that we have listed. However, there are abundant facts in the record to show that there are things that are different from the last time the court allocated parental rights, and so that there is no prejudice to any error. There's a plethora of evidence to support the trial court's action in granting James's custody to mother and William's custody to father. The third assignment of error was determining that it was in William's best interest to live with his father. Again, this is reviewed on an abusive discretion standard. The record reveals that the trial court considered the factors of Revised Code 310904F and determined that it was in William's best interest. Mother has argued that William failed a grade. However, in fact, adjusting from a public school to a private school, it was father's determination in consultation with the school that he would do better if he he was held back a year at that point rather than another failure because he arrived at father's home not actually up to par scholastically. Father offered more structure than mother did. Father made sure that William went to his sport events and wherever he needed to be. He maintained tutoring for William and had William in boys club. When mom had custody of both children, James was suspended 3 times from school in the time between the last allocation of rights and this one, in 11, 12, and 13. Father involved William in counseling. Mother doesn't believe either of the children need counseling. It's hard to believe that neither of these kids could need counseling. The 4th assignment of error deals with the guardian's recommendation that in a period of 1 month, the children each spend 1 full week together at one parent or another parent's home. While that might have been a good suggestion, the trial court did not abuse its discretion in rejecting that. These children have enough difficulties without having to determine on a 4-week calendar which week they're at which home. And similarly, at the standard order of visitation argument, the 5th assignment of error, these children have enough difficulty without having a midweek visit to further disrupt their progress. James is violent. William is a trigger to his violence. That doesn't mean that James is at fault. It just means that they should spend less time together. I believe that the trial court did not err in keeping the children separate except for their weekends with each parent.
I'm not sure I understand this whole visitation schedule.
Yes.
Can you explain when the boys were together and when they were with each parent? How did this work?
The new schedule that we're reviewing.
Yes,
Okay.
the one that's at issue.
This is actually a simple schedule. During the school week, James is with his mother, William is with his father. In one weekend, both boys are with mother, and the other weekend, they're both with father. It's not as bad as it reads on paper. Mother's objection was not having additional weeks where the children were both together with each parent and not having a midweek visit with William. So the standard order for children of this age is frankly 1 visit per week with the I'm going to use residential, although we're not supposed to, the non-residential parent. So having entire weekends at this age is actually a good structured environment for these children who have some difficulties. And it gives them predictability, it gives them stability, and it gives them all week to concentrate on what should be their job, going to school and succeeding. I believe that the trial court did not err in dealing with the best interests of William or James, and we would ask the court to affirm the trial court's judgment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to be minimizing the fact that both boys have had issues in school, that it's plain, can't be denied. It was an ongoing thing, but I just want to point out the fact that this was a father who had minimal contact with these boys, has 2 from a previous marriage with no relationship. When called during that incident at the grandparents' home involving Bishop Neal, he refuses to come. He just wasn't putting his hand in to give a help here. All I can tell you is that the mother of these 2 boys has actually had them since they were born, without the father being involved in any meaningful way. And she wants them back with her. So, and a couple of other things. There's an allusion to this safety plan, guns and knives. There's no evidence in the record of any danger from guns or knives.
Well, I got the impression it was more because James has been at Belmont Hines for,
That James could be out of control.
no, because he'd been suicidal.
Oh,
And then my
okay.
thought was that the
Okay.
purpose of that was to protect him from
I
himself.
didn't get that, but I think you may be right.
There's no evidence that
Yeah,
he's-
there wasn't, nothing like that was instructed to anybody else. And the other thing I get a kick out of is Bishop Mark Neal keeps breaking his arm, according in their brief, but in our brief, he broke his hand. And I just want to show you, I'd just like to read one of the, they refer to a place in the transcript that says, she's cross-examining the
Counsel,
guardian.
let me just stop you. I apologize because there's a phone outside our courtroom, so I apologize. It's making a noise. It's not in the courtroom, so.
Oh,
I
okay.
apologize.
It's not mine.
No.
Anyway, it was one of those questions where the attorney says, so this high conflict home would explain how Bishop Mark Neal broke his arm, and the guardian ad litem says, yeah, that could explain it. In other words, this was not testimony from anybody except the lawyer that he broke his arm. It's not a huge thing, but it has the connotation that this big boy broke his uncle's arm. And I think I laid it out exactly what happened. The man had house shoes on, hardwood floor. He slipped and broke his hand. But even with that, he was able to subdue James and hold him down and dial James's dad on the phone. So I think I'm finished. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions?
You know, a lot of times these cases come up, and a lot of times dads don't have much of a relationship with their boys, with their children at all. When mom's got the children, they go on, the dads are gone. And sometimes it seems like the father's being punished for not having that kind of a relationship with their children when they're ready to step in. And I don't know how much, we say he had minimal, but there's no better indication of what minimal really has been over the years. You know, child's a child till they're 18, and they have two parents
yeah.
till they're 18. So I'm wondering how much of a relationship did he have with them?
I understand that. Well, I was glad my wife never went to domestic relations court because she would have got the kids. The only evidence that we have that I point to in the brief is that there was an original decree in 2010, and I think it gave him on again, off again visitation. I'm not sure, it's in the brief, it's every other week or something, and he didn't do it. So, okay.
Well, the court will take the matter under advisement. As you know, we go through the record and look at it very closely, and we will make a written decision that will be issued and be sent to both sides, as well as it will be released on our court website and on the Supreme Court website. So thank you. Thank you for your presentation